and on the right was a larger living room-esque space, bisected by what was once a double doorway. But the door was missing. The bathroom was under the stairs which led to one downstairs. Bedroom spanning the back of the home was the kitchen and laundry. Room, which was clearly once a back porch upstairs, was a bit strange, but the staircase was in the center of the house, which led almost all the way to the back of the home. At the top of the stairs to the right was a bedroom mine, and to the left a long hallway. In the middle of the hallway was a door to another bedroom. Mom's, and at the end was a room that we called the balcony room. So it was a cool fall night in 1994. My mom and I had been at a friend's house, Jaybird, that's what we called him. Anyway, for most of the evening listening to the Smashing Pumpkins' Nana or whatever edgy music was most popular back then. She was 21, into partying, dumber than a box of rocks, and had no problem dragging me along through all of her stuff. But that's another story. I remember, though, having a good time with all of her friends, and they usually treated me pretty well. So I had a good time hanging out late into the night with them. But around 2 or 3 in the morning, it was time for us to go home. We pulled into the driveway in front of the garage. After a short 10-minute drive, the garage was about 100 ft from the back of the house, and we could see our bedroom lights shining through the large curtains in the upstairs windows. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary or strange at all. We walked up the small path to the back door that led to the laundry room, both sort of yawning and ready to go to sleep once we got inside. The light from the large living room shined through the open doorway into the kitchen, lighting our way. We walked through the kitchen and into the living room, and that was when we heard footsteps somewhere inside of the house. We peered into the living room but couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. Mom called out, "Hello," but there was no response. Just more footsteps. Mom and I made the trek to the front of the house, stopping near the foot of the stairs. The light from the living room bled over the bottom few stairs into the smaller living room on the other side. Unfortunately, the upstairs hallway light had been out since we moved in. That's why we typically left the bedroom lights on, by the way, so the light could bleed into the hallway. But looking up the staircase was looking up into complete darkness at this point, but someone had turned off the bedroom lights and was now running around upstairs. Mom called out again, "Hello, who's up there?" Of course, no response. Again, the footsteps were getting more intense, though like most old houses, when something is dropped or someone is stomping on the floor, you pretty much feel it everywhere. We were starting to feel these steps, and they were now turning into stomp zone. Last time my mom called out, "Who's running around up there?" And for a split second the footsteps stopped. Then the stomping started, and I could feel the stomps walking down the hallway towards the top of the stairs. Then they started almost running down the staircase. My mom and I stood petrified, knowing whoever was running around in our home was about to reveal themselves by stepping into the light. I remember feeling them in the floor, getting closer with every stomp. The stomping stopped right at the foot of the stairs, but there was nothing there. It seemed like forever that Mom and I both stood there staring at the last step, but I'm sure it was only a second then. As quickly as it stopped, the stomping started again, back up the stairs, around the banister, and down the hallway. Once we snapped out of it, Mom picked me up and ran back to the car. She backed out of the driveway and we went back to Jay's house, and once we got there, Mom told Jay what we had seen. "There's no way, someone must be messing with you, Jen." He said she begged him to come back to the house and to see it for himself, and eventually he agreed. We pulled up to the front of the house this time, not even bothering with the back door that we usually came through. I'm sure Mom expected us to open the door and everything to be completely normal. Jay would laugh at the situation, and we'd take him home. I know I did anyway, but that's not what happened at all. Jay opened the door first, and we all walked in, standing at the foot of the stairs, just where Mom and I had been 20 minutes ago. We heard the same stomps as before. Instantly Jay said, "Watch, we're going to go outside and find the ladder that they climbed up to get into your house. We'll pull it down and they'll have to reveal themselves." We went outside and found, of course, no ladder or any other way that someone could have broken in. We went back inside and it happened again, all the way to the bottom of the stairs again. Right in front of Mom, Jay, and myself. Jay ushered us outside at this point and said, how about you guys stay at my place tonight?" So we spent the night at Jay's house. The next morning, we went back. The sunlight was shining in, illuminating the upstairs hallway. When we made it to the top of the stairs, everything was normal. Nothing was misplaced. No windows were broken or left open. Everything was exactly how we left it. This is one of the earliest childhood memories that I have. I was just a little guy back then, and I didn't really understand what had happened to me. I just knew that it wasn't normal. Little did I know that this was the first of many paranormal experiences in this home that I would have, and its history had much more to tell. Musicus August this past year, my family stayed at an Airbnb in Sellville, VA, 10 minutes outside of Harper's Ferry. Look up the John Brown raid. And about 45 minutes away from Gettysburg. The house itself is older than the town, built in 1752, and on a current working farm vineyard. But here's the setup of the house. So you enter into the oldest part of the home. You can see these two sections, kitchen and sitting room, where the original cabin before past owners built on. Through the sitting room was a small library, another sitting area, and my parents' room on the first floor. But off the ground outside, when you go up the stairs of the sitting room, there's a bathroom to the right, 2 doors in front of the stairs, and a room to the left. Over the kitchen, my husband and I stayed in this room over the kitchen, as the bedroom directly in front of the stairs gave me the creeps. It had the original fireplace in there, but something when I walked in just felt off. My sister and brother-in-law stayed on the floor above us, as that room has its own window and AC unit. The house has no communal AC, just individual in-room units. We arrived on a Sunday, so Monday morning my dad asked me about footsteps from the night prior. He said that he was sitting at the kitchen table on his computer and could hear footsteps walking around the house above him. My dad had also been making jokes and tends to be a little theatrical with his humor leading up to a vacation, calling it Ghost Central. So I told him that our room is above the kitchen, and I wouldn't think anything of it. It was probably just one of us getting ready for bed or whatever. He then mentioned that he thought that he saw a bright light shining outside of his window and was tempted to look, but thought better of it again. Though my dad has also had a history of wild dreams and sleepwalking, so I just sort of brushed it off randomly too. My husband asked me to help him move the crib from the other side of our room to be next to our bed. I didn't think anything of it, as he said that it was just to be easier because our room was so big. It was half the full length of the original cabin, with only our bed at the far end of the room opposite from the crib and a bathroom anyway. On Tuesday, my dad's birthday, we sat in the old dining room for dinner. The room is a stunning, picturesque old farmhouse dining room with a big window overlooking the field shed and barn, with the mountains around us too. It was still light outside, about 5 at p.m. while we were eating, and I looked outside of the window and noticed the shed door seeming slightly ajar. I didn't think too much of it, but the next time I looked up it looked more open, but slightly enough that I thought that I was just overthinking. This then happened several more times. The door was more open, more closed, etc. I didn't want to scare my already anxious dad, so I texted my husband, "Can you go out and check the shed?" The door keeps opening. I think he checks his phone, and when we both look up, we watch the shed door slowly open itself completely, and then just as slowly closed itself shut again. My husband went outside with my dad to check it out, but in the end, nobody was there. We locked the shed and said that it shouldn't But it was weird that the door would both open and close itself like that, right? Anyway, Wednesday we were gone for the day in DC, but on Thursday we went to Gettysburg for the day, and my husband left after dinner to put the baby to bed, so I could do the ghost tour with my family when we got home. My husband, who's naturally very skeptical of ghosts and hypological about everything, said that he heard footsteps upstairs when he got in now. My dad and sister had met the groundskeeper on a walk along the property earlier in the week, and my husband said that he was worried the guy was a weirdo walking around the house and maybe snooping while we were gone. Another thing about the house too is that the sound doesn't travel at all. What I mean is that sitting in the kitchen you didn't get an echo, or had to speak very loud and clear to someone in the next room. No acoustics, in other words. So he checked every room and closet to make sure that nobody was in the house. That's how loud the steps were, and he was a little spooked, but we decided not to say anything, because my family was making comments all week about the house and we didn't want to upset anyone that night. I thought that I was starting to get paranoid, because I could have sworn that I was hearing a knocking above my head, and also thought that I was smelling vanilla on the ghost tour. We learned that the townspeople dealt with the smell of corpses for months. Post-war bi-dipping face masks in vanilla, lavender, and mint. I thought that I was just spooked, and I did my best to sleep. But when I woke up the next morning, always the first, because I have my routine with our daughter, I noticed that the kitchen cabinets were left open. I was confused, but just closed them, and while my daughter was taking a nap later that morning, I tapped her monitor and the camera rotated all the way down. That really confused me. Had I held it down, or am I just overthinking it? My family decided to spend the day in Leberg as our last full day before we left Saturday at lunch. I mentioned the cabinets, and my dad said that it might have been him. He got my mom a glass of water before bed, apparently, but we all went to bed after him, so that didn't make any sense. Then my sister mentioned that she woke up in a cold sweat at 3 o'clock in the morning. She said that she was having a really weird dream, and thought that she heard someone whisper in her ear, "Don't move." She said that before bed, her and her husband were watching more videos about Gettysburg, and saw a bright flash of light outside the window, oh bright that she even checked the weather, thinking that maybe there was a lightning storm on the way, or something. Then I looked at my husband and said, "Did you tell them about the footsteps?" He hadn't. He shared his story, and then said that he also woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning in a cold sweat this morning. My sister also mentioned that she also hated the first bedroom. There was something about the fireplace that really creeped her out. The same way, it gave me the weird vibes. So in the end, we all decided to keep the door shut all week, without saying anything to each other about it. We were all stunned, but my sister immediately started panicking, asking if we could leave. We were all on the fence about it. I mean, we were planning to leave Saturday at 6 a.m. regardless to get home and to return to our rentals. But we weren't entirely convinced. We finished our day out, came home and began to pack up what we needed to, and then we went to dinner with the plan to stay one more night, and this is where everything got really weird. So when we got home from dinner, the bedroom door that we kept shut was actually cracked open, and then air was coming out of it that was so cold, it was like standing directly in front of the AC. It was just my husband and I on the stairs, and we looked at each other, and he quickly shut it before my sister came up because, well, we didn't want her to freak out even more. We put the baby to bed and I headed downstairs, because we all talked about having one last fire pit outside. My husband stayed with the baby until she fell asleep, but when I calmed downstairs, my family was all huddled together saying, "We need to go." My sister was really scared and didn't want to stay another night in their room. After some discussion, we all decided that it would be best to leave. At this point, we were only like 3 hours from home, and we could sleep in our own beds before midnight. We got the cars loaded up relatively quickly, and I had our daughter in her car seat, and was talking with my sister with the car door open as the boys all did a final walk through the house from the outside. You can see perfectly who was where in the house. 2. I could see my dad walking into what was our room on the second floor with my husband, and I could see the flashlights scanning the top floor simultaneously where my sister and brother-in-law slept. My husband had his flashlight on when he went into the house, so I assumed that it was him up there after a few minutes. My dad throws out some final trash and I see him sort of half running or scuffling to the car and he says, "Okay, time to go." We start heading down the driveway and turn to my husband and asked why he didn't just turn the lights on upstairs when he checked it. And he said that he wasn't up there, that it was my brother-in-law. My dad yelled up the stairs asking if brother-in-law was up there and husband heard, "Yeah, I'm up here." At that point, my sister calls me. I asked her if brother-in-law was upstairs to do a final sweep, and he said no, he didn't go upstairs at all, and my dad in their car confirmed it. My dad said that he yelled up the stairs if he was there, and my brother-in-law apparently yelled from the first floor though, "No, I'm in the kitchen." When everyone asked why, I told them what I saw, and it was like someone was walking around the third floor with a flashlight scanning the room. My dad mentioned that when he went into my room to check it, his flashlight started to die at that point. And when he stepped into the hallway, it came back on. My husband agreed and shared, when he went into our room with my dad, that he felt sort of suddenly numb as well. And while my dad was locking the house up on the keypad, he started the 4-digit code and the house locked itself on the second number. And when he went to throw out the last of the trash, his flashlight started to die again. And that's when we all saw him shuffling to the car. Oh, and when we tried to find any information on this house, it's so old and historical that there's gotta be something, right? But we found nothing except the 20/20 Zillow listing from the last owner, who literally had 6 packed paragraphs of information about the house, and under what the owner loves about the house is one sentence: the house was a Civil War field hospital. And then goes on to talk about the home's 66 acres and nearby locations. Needless to say, after all of that, we all felt better about coming home and not spending another night there. Sometimes I wonder if ghosts just get comfortable or familiar, and as more weird stuff happened leading up to the night that we left, I would not have been able to sleep that night. The owner texted my dad the next day to give checkout instructions, and my dad said that we left last night. I'm sure we're not the first to tell you this, but your place is haunted. The owners were surprised and said that we actually were the first to say so, and asked what we experienced and that it